Planning for early retirement is the first step in the journey of retiring early. But actually taking the action and committing to retiring early, well, that's a whole different ballgame. Hi, I'm Nadia, one half of the Wealth Twins, and I found for me that preparing for early retirement was actually easier than actually handing in my resignation and saying goodbye to the corporate life and committing to the action of retiring early. However, there were 3 pieces of advice that I want to share with you that gave me the courage, hope, and inspiration to be able to become financially independent and retire early. Each piece of advice came from coworkers, either directly or indirectly, and they had no idea how much that advice would actually change my life. So let's jump into it. I'm actually in London right now with my 10-year-old, and the reason why that information is relevant is because those are 2 main reasons why I decided to pursue early retirement. The last time I was in London, I was here on business, and I stayed for 3 months. And during those 3 months, I had to work 7 days a week and did more than 80 hours a week. I was miserable because I had no control over my time or my schedule, and I knew something needed to change. I was also here during the planning of my wedding, so I had to depend on others like my sister and friends to send out invitations because I was in a different continent at the time. So I didn't even have time to even participate in the planning of my wedding. My 10-year-old is the second reason. I knew when I had her, I wanted to be able to spend time with her, and I knew the work-life balance I had in my job wasn't optimal for having a family. So when my maternity leave ended, I had to make the decision of whether or not I would go back into the office or I would stay and pursue early retirement. So I made the call to HR, and after a brief panic attack, I knew the decision that I made was the right one for me. Which leads me to my first piece of advice that I got about early retirement that actually made it possible for me to retire earlier than usual. It came to me indirectly from Nicole's coworker, and if you don't know Nicole, she's the other wealth twin. In the first year of her job, her manager took her aside and asked her if she was investing in her 401k. Nicole was 21 at the time, and she said, "Of course not. I'm 21, I'm not thinking about retirement, and the last thing I want to do is put money in there when I need all of my paycheck." He quickly made a spreadsheet and illustrated the power of compound interest. As soon as Nicole saw that, she jumped on the phone, called me, and said, "Nadia, we have to start investing right now. If you saw these numbers, even if you have a little bit of money invested, this will grow exponentially." So starting from that day on, we started investing. The action of investing at an early age, at the age of 21, and continuing to invest through the years is what actually allowed me to be financially able to retire early. If you have any young people in your life, please encourage them to start investing early. It doesn't matter how much money they put in. What matters only is that they start. If you didn't receive the advice to start investing at an early age, it's okay. Just start investing now. And if you're over the age of 50, please take advantage of catch-up contributions so you can start making up that difference. The next piece of advice I received from a coworker was more of a statement than advice, but it put in my head that retiring early was a possibility and a goal that I wanted to pursue. A coworker had said that the best time to retire would be the age of 40. And his reasoning was, if you retired at the age of 40, you most likely have been working about half your life. So let's say you started working at 2021. By the age of 40, you've been working around 20 years. He said if you retired at 40, you would still be young enough to enjoy the perks that came with retirement. You can retire, you can choose what you wanted to do, and you had a ton of time freedom, and you would be able to avoid a lot of the downside that comes with retiring at a later age. Now, I know a lot of people frown upon retiring at an early age, especially if it is before the age of 40. But that is if you picture the stereotypical version of retirement in your head. When I pictured retiring before the age of 40, I didn't picture myself sitting around or traveling all the time. I pictured it as an opportunity to be able to choose what I wanted to do with my life. So that statement gave me inspiration. Every choice I made up to that point in my life and in my career was done out of necessity. I did well in school because I thought that was the only choice I had in order to be able to leave a violent neighborhood. I chose to accept a job from the first company who offered me one after graduation because I needed to support myself. I didn't have the luxury of being able to find myself and figure out what I wanted to do with my life. Everything had to happen immediately. Not to be overly dramatic, but basically all my decisions were made from survival mode. I saw early retirement as an opportunity to give myself a chance to change that. Now, adding to this line of thinking, my mother also played an inspiration. My mother worked 7 days a week and worked very hard for most of her life, but she passed away before even entering the age of retirement. So because she wasn't able to retire, I also wanted to do it for her and give myself the ability to retire because she never got the chance. Now, the third piece of advice that I received actually gave me the courage to retire early. I had already been financially stable at that point and I could retire, but I didn't want to take the leap. This piece of advice came during a round of layoffs. A lot of my coworkers were worried. During one of those water cooler conversations, a coworker had mentioned that he wasn't worried at all. He said that if he lost his job, he had no problem getting another job, making at least half of what he was making, and he still would be fine. And that would be the worst case scenario. He was used to living below his means, and even if he was making half of what he was making, he still could live the same lifestyle that he currently had working at this job. Now, what I found was interesting because I had already been saving more than 50% of my paycheck, but this put it into a different perspective. I was already used to living below my means. I didn't think to myself that this could be an advantage for me in case I lost a job or I decided to leave a job. If I ever needed a job, I would be perfectly fine making half of what I was making or even less. You see, I didn't grow up with much money, so not having money didn't invoke the same fear in me that it did in my coworkers. When it comes to the idea of a job, I don't let pride get in my way. If I need money, I have no problem taking a job that gives me an honest day pay for an honest day's worth of work. And if I had to start from the bottom, I definitely would. And I knew, based on my experience and my skill level, I could easily get a job making half of what I was making. And that gave me the confidence to say, you know what? If I decide to retire early, if my plans don't work out, I should be okay. So far, it's been 10 years and it seems that my plan has been working out for me. Now, if you notice, the 3 pieces of advice that I outlined here came to me randomly, but I absorbed them and I made sure I used them to my benefit. Hearing good advice and acting on it will bring you a lot further than anything that you can ever do in your life and will speed up your achievement of any goal that you set. With proper planning, a reasonable timeline, flexibility, and courage, you really can achieve anything you set your mind to. I will make it a point though to stress to you the importance of investing and saving as early as possible, especially if your goal is to be able to retire comfortably. There are multiple ways to invest. You can choose to invest in the stock market, you can choose to invest in real estate, or invest in anything that you're comfortable with. But the key is to start investing because that gives your money extra power to work harder for you. Being able to save will help you if any of those investments ever go wrong. If you would like to find out more about early retirement and how I was able to achieve it at the age of 35, check out this playlist right here. Whether you decide to continue working or retire early, that choice is up to you. But I want to let you know the Wealth Twins are in your corner. We have resources and tools and courses to help you out. If you ever need help, look at any of the videos on our channel. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss anything that we put out. And join the Wealth Pack, where we give information and tricks that we don't share on YouTube. And we share it exclusively for our community. So if you want to join the Wealth Pack, the link is in the description below. So join us. We make sure, just like a pack, that no one is left behind. And we would love to have you join us and grow your wealth with us. So don't miss out. And please subscribe to the channel because we would love to have you as part of our community.